Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Chief Meteorologist Terry Swales, and what you're looking at now are some strong thunderstorms that are developing down in the southern parts of our viewing area. Our Nick Stewart has been out in the Road Warrior tracking these storms, and he's in this general area right now, and it does appear that that storm might actually have a bit of a wall cloud developing on it. So, Nick, could you tell us what you're seeing and what's going on down your way?
Yeah, good evening, Terry. Right now, we're just a little bit west of Wellman. You can see a very classic supercell beginning to form here right in extreme northwestern Washington County. You can start seeing some of these wall clouds are beginning to form. We're even starting to see some early indications of rotation in that wall cloud, especially kind of above that leftmost barn. This is a very strong storm that continues to develop. On the far left side of that storm base, you can actually start seeing that the inflow tail there is kind of pulling in that warm, moist air. That's starting to kind of spin as well. So the storm is definitely strengthening. We're seeing a lot of moisture being pulled in with it. The structure continues to intensify as well. As we alluded to in the 5 o'clock show as well, the environment is definitely very, very ripe for development for these storms. We have temperatures right now about 80 or so degrees, dew points around 70, and that'll be the fuel for the storm. We're going to stick with it here for the next couple of hours because this definitely has the potential of being coming quickly severe here in the next couple of minutes, really. Live near Wellman, Iowa, I'm Weather First meteorologist Nick Stewart, CBS 2 News.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. And we'll certainly be keeping close tabs on that particular storm there. It has reached tops of about 45,000 feet in the atmosphere, which is a big jump from where it was about 20 minutes ago. So it certainly is intensifying. And going in closer on that, you can see Iowa City and North Liberty right in here. If you're in Coralville or Tiffin, that general region right in here, that storm continues to head on to the northeast and will be impacting you in about the next 15 to 20 minutes. And there's the actual core of it. We have seen some evidence of broad rotation on the radar here. So this is one we'll have to keep close tabs on as it tracks northeast into an environment that is favorable for strong storms and even some tornado spin-ups as we go through the evening hours here. So right now it's this general region here down in parts of Johnson County that is under the gun from that strong storm moving in a northeasterly direction. Now we are going to our predictor here. This is our high resolution model, and it is showing right around 6 o'clock a pretty healthy cell here off to the east of Cedar Rapids. So I suspect this is what it was trying to hone in on. It's a little bit further to the south, but the general idea is there. That's a pretty healthy supercell, and it is expected to move off to the northeast as we go through the next few hours. Then we get to midnight, there's some additional storms scattered through here and more concentrated weather down to the southeast over southeastern Iowa. And going through the night then, it looks like this all pretty much drifts out of here by tomorrow morning. But there will be the potential for some active storms in here through the evening and into very early tomorrow morning with some more heavy rain. Then we get into tomorrow, and at least at noon, it looks pretty dry around here. And it will be warm once again with temperatures back in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. And then towards evening, more thunderstorms start to show up down to the southeast, and some of those are likely to be in here into Saturday night. And that's just the beginnings of this active weather pattern that is going to last right on into early next week. So we do have a risk of severe storms here from the Storm Prediction Center from the northeastern corner of the state back to about Waterloo. But in my opinion, it's probably this region right in here that stands the best chance of seeing the severe weather, which could include wind, hail, and even a tornado spin-up. Then we get to tomorrow, and the threat's a little bit further south from about Cedar Rapids on down into southeastern Iowa. And so we definitely have to watch that very closely there. Now, from what I'm understanding, we have a tornado warning that has now been issued from that storm. So I am going to back the radar up here a little bit, and we'll take another look at it and show you what's currently out there. So since I'm not over at the wall, I don't have all the specifics on this just yet, but as you can see, it's for Iowa and Johnson counties and a little part of Washington County as well. And there's the core of the storm that we're concerned about. And that's what's going to be moving northeast and heading into Johnson County over the next 15, 20 minutes or so. The warning then, the tornado warning, will be out until 7 o'clock, but it does touch portions of Iowa, Johnson, Keokuk, and Washington counties. But if you're anywhere in this polygon here, that is where the storm is expected to track, and that is where we have to be concerned about the potential of a tornado development there. So what I'm going to do right now is go back over to the weather desk so I can control a few things and hopefully hone in on the storms a bit more. But as we just said, the tornado warning has been issued until until 7 o'clock tonight for portions of Iowa, Johnson, Keokuk, and Washington counties. And now we're getting into the actual velocity mode here, and there you can see where our couplet is located. This is where we've got opposing wind fields where the greens and the reds are coming together there. You can see it on the cursor, and that is why the tornado warning has been issued. And Nick is out in the field, so once again we want to be able to bring his video in here. So if we can go split screen a little bit later on, that'd be good too. But for now we'll take it back to Nick and he can show us why the tornado warning has been issued thanks to that wall cloud there. Nick?
Hey Terry, right now we are a little bit north of Wellman. We're going to be passing north of town, just trying to get a good view. Right now, as you can see with our live feed, the beautiful thing of the Road Warrior is you can tell exactly what's happening right now, and nothing is on the ground with it. However, there's a very strong indication of rotation with this storm visually. There's definitely a very defined wall cloud with this storm. We'll get a better view here. There you go. And there's definitely some rotation with that wall cloud, so this thing can produce a tornado at any moment. All of our phones are going off with the tornado warning right now. But again, nothing on the ground right now, but very clearly evidence of rotation with this storm. I'm going to zoom in out here on the right side of that wall cloud. That's what we call an inflow tail. And that means we're getting warm, moist air flowing into that storm here. Again, this is just northwest of Wellman. Very clearly defined supercell, big rotating wall cloud, but right now, no tornado.
All right, and if we can go to split screen here, that would be good, so we can show the radar and we'll still have the video up there for you to talk about. I don't know if it's possible to flip-flop me here, but it'd be great if you could do that so we can have the opposing seeing the actual storm over here and the radar on this side. Is that a possibility? I know you're working on it back there, but right in there, pretty tight couplet beginning to develop, and that's where we have our opposing winds. So these are going one direction here and the other here, and down at the surface, of course, winds are coming in from the south, pulling in that warm, moist air. And then in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we have the westerly winds blowing in here. So that's what's imparting the spin to create that wall cloud, which you can see off in the distance. Now, it's clearly not yet producing a tornado. And I'd just love to be able to get in here so I can point at things. Is that possible, you guys? Not on this, not on this, on the actual image that Nick is sending out, if that's possible. All right, well, we're getting it. There you go. All right, this is the thing to note. Clearly, no tornado on the ground, but this is the lowering base, which is showing signs of rotation here, and that is where the tornado would actually form. And as Nick indicated, there's good inflow coming into this. Plenty of moisture. Dew points today have been up around 70 degrees. So the instability is certainly there, and the cloud levels are also pretty low here, so it wouldn't take much for that thing to drop on out and eventually produce a tornado. So that's what Nick is currently seeing out there right now and getting in a better position to see it here once we get past the trees. So that being the case, now let's go back to the radar here and we'll show you the latest scan on that. And I know Rebecca is now into the room here helping out. If we could do a storm track on it, Rebecca, and show people where that is going to go here in the next 15 minutes and what towns are in the path of it, that's something I'd like to do here. Meantime, again, we'll mention the fact that Iowa, Johnson, Keokuk, and Washington counties are out under the tornado warning now until 7 o'clock this evening. And there is where the actual center of the storm is currently found. Nick is close to that. And the way this is tracking now, looks like it should be heading towards Amish and Sharon Center, and eventually it's going to come pretty close to Iowa City, maybe just a little bit south of there, and expanding the view. There you can see where Iowa City is currently located. So if you're in this part of our viewing area, there's Interstate 80, and there's Iowa City, North Liberty is here, and there's Coralville right in that region. A lot of metro area there, and the storm does appear to be pushing pretty close to Iowa City and should be up that way by the time we get to 7 o'clock this evening. And our scan's still showing a lot of good rotation going on within the storm there, so it certainly is intensifying and getting better organized. Yes.
I want to say that so on Facebook right now, people might start getting alerts. They're asking if Cedar Rapids is under a warning. We do have a tornado watch that has now been issued, so you might be getting alerts about that. This does not include Cedar Rapids, so this warning is actually just to the west of Iowa City right now, includes Wellman, Riverside, is southeast of Williamsburg, and south of North Liberty.
So important to note here that Cedar Rapids, Lynn County, not under a tornado warning. However, Iowa City, a different story for you. The tornado warning extends from there down to about Riverside and then back to the west. And that is the actual storm right now that we're most concerned about. But the tornado watch was just issued. I don't even have any specifics on that. That just came down. What can you tell me on that, Rebecca?
So that is kind of just still coming through here, but we do have Cedar County. It goes until midnight tonight, it looks like. Johnson, Jones, Keokuk, Lynn, Washington counties. I would guess that they're, they're just keeping that out for the possibility of thunderstorms through the night here, and we could see that get canceled early. But we do have that tornado watch out now until midnight tonight for the southeastern part of our area.
Okay, most definitely. And again, we'll have that up for you visually in just a second, but we get information very quickly from the Storm Prediction Center, and we'll have it before they can actually insert it into the graphics machine back there. So that's why it isn't showing up to us just yet. But the storm certainly looks pretty ominous. I would love to go back to that. Let's show it more. That's a good picture there, and we can talk more about it as it continues to move on to the northeast into Johnson County. Now, it's hard to tell how hard this is rotating right now, and that's a good thing we could get back to Nick on. If he's still hooked up out there, we could ask him if he is seeing any hard rotation or if it's pretty broad and slow at this particular point. Can you hear me, Nick?
I'm really open. Yes, Terry, right now we are heading just west of the Amish area. You're looking at here as the wall cloud continues to get stronger and stronger. We're still seeing some evident rotation with it. Especially on the left side, it's definitely spinning counterclockwise. Again, this is just west of Amish. And the other closest town will be southeast of Parnell. Still a good rotating wall cloud with this storm. We can see it visually. But I have not really seen much of a funnel with this storm. We're going to pull over to kind of get you a better idea of what's happening right here. Again, still a pretty good rotating wall cloud. I'm going to kind of, actually, we are zoomed out as close as we can. We're literally right underneath this tornadic supercell, but we are safe right now. It is spinning just off to our northwest as the storm moves off to our north as well. Again, right now, still no tornado on the ground, but definitely some rotation with this storm. Let's send things back over to you, Terry.
All right. And based on what I'm seeing in the picture there, it doesn't appear that we're looking at really hard, fast rotation just yet. But the circulation was very evident on the radar. And now Rebecca, I see, has punched up where the tornado watch is in effect. And that runs from Dubuque back to Cedar Rapids and then just to the west in Iowa County there. So basically about the southeastern 1/3 of the region in the tornado watch until midnight tonight. Anything new over there to report, Rebecca?
Not really, Ed. They're just still concerned about the kind of tightening that they're seeing on the velocity here, which is what we look at for in terms of the winds, which we've been talking about. And Nick's saying he's seeing that rotation, but once again, no funnel cloud. So you can get all the rotation you want, but until a funnel cloud actually comes out, that's what's going to lead to it being a tornado.
And there you're now starting to see a little bit of yellow in there. So the inbound and outbound winds showing up very clearly right in here. So that is the center of the circulation. And I also know that we can go to the mode where we can put Nick's vehicle in there as well. And if you'll do that, we'll be able to show exactly where Nick is in relation to the storm. So that's what Nick is seeing there in the picture off in the Road Warrior, and the actual storm then in the radar is off to the left. So you know how to do that, Rebecca?
I need to set just one thing up really quickly and I will get that there.
All right. There's a lot going on right now. Things are breaking pretty fast around here. There's a little bit of a hook on there too, it almost looks like here, and that's just the regular reflectivity mode there. We're not in velocity mode, so when you see that.
You see Nick up there now.
Okay. And so that's Nick's vehicle. That is where he is currently located. And the picture that Nick is actually sending live to us is showing up here as well. So that's what's going on. And you guys, is there any chance we can flip these pictures? Like I said earlier, you can't put the one in the other? All right. Well, we tried, folks. It would have been a lot easier for me to point it out, but that's just the way it is. Anyway, there's your storm, and there's Windham up here to the northeast of that, and then Iowa City a little bit further northeast of there, and there's Tiffin, and that is the Nachi part of the storm right in there that has the potential to produce the tornado. And Rebecca, you go back to the velocity mode once again. There's where we're talking about our circulation right in there. It doesn't appear to be anywhere close to a city at this particular time. Kalona is probably the closest there off to the southeast.
And actually, we were seeing those yellows just a bit ago, the oranges, and it's actually backed off since then. So that's nice to see.
Yeah, there might be one little speck right over in that corner there. But the wall cloud itself doesn't show any tendency just yet to get any closer to the ground, so we're happy about that, but it is still out there and still looks pretty ominous on the pictures that we're sending you live from the Road Warrior tonight, with the storm now about 15 to 20 miles to the southwest of Iowa City, and it is certainly capable of producing a tornado. And we'll go back out to Nick when he gets an opportunity here to talk to us and see what he's seeing out there as he's tracking this live in our Road Warrior this evening. Nick?
Hey, Terry, right now we are closing in on it. We have a pretty good funnel that just started forming. Again, this is just northwest of Amish, southwest of Windham. This is kind of that storm right now. We're starting to get in what's called the RFD, or rear flank downdraft of the storm. And usually this RFD is what can kind of kick these storms into gear to kind of get things going. But you can see that wall cloud right there. Pretty low contrast, a little bit of rain starting to wrap in around that wall cloud. But there was a funnel that formed about 2 minutes ago. It kind of dissipated, but still a strongly rotating wall cloud. You can see it on the radar. I have the radar in my car, and I can tell you I can definitely see it visually as well. Very strong rotation at this road. We're going to make it right. Zim?
So, Nick, how far would you say that you're away from the actual storm right now? Are you within 2 miles, mile, something like that?
I'd say the actual circulation, we're probably less than a half mile. It's literally right over that next hill. But we're obviously keeping safety in mind. That's why we're coming in from the angle that we're doing this. This is my 10th year storm chasing, so we have a little bit of experience doing this here in this car. Again, this is a...
It looks like Nick is in an area where he's not getting the best signal right now. I'm sure he's going to come out of that as he gets closer to Iowa City. But we're going back to the radar right now, and there is where we are focused on as the storm is north of Wellman now, and continuing to move off in a northeasterly direction. There is Highway 1, which it goes right north out of Kalona there and heads on up towards Iowa City. And the storm appears to be moving to the northeast. Now, that scan came in there a little bit less aggressive on it. It's not as well organized, let's put it that way. But one thing you need to stress in a situation like this, these storms ebb and pulse. It's kind of like the human heart. It's just beating away out there. And sometimes it goes a little faster and sometimes a little bit slower. But that is currently where we're most concerned about, in that area there, just to the northwest of Kalona, probably 2 or 3 miles northwest of there, with the storm heading northeast towards the Iowa City area. And Rebecca's right on it, actually 4 miles from Kalona. Can we check on any hail? We haven't had any reports of that. Haven't really seen any rain. Nick's in a good position down there. He's been able to stay out of the precipitation.
Yeah, you can see the inflow here, the little hook kind of trying to form there.
Right.
And rain-free base, meaning that where the rotation is, there's not a lot of rain actually falling.
Right, and so Nick's coming in from an excellent position there. You don't want to drop in from the northeast like that, and you're core punching, and that's when you get into the hail and the rain. You really can't see anything until it's right on top of you. But we are showing some signs that there might be some hail in there, at least a ½ an inch in diameter, and so that's something to watch as the storm continues to grow and intensify. Rebecca, could you maybe do some echo tops on there? I'd like to see just how high this is vertically in the atmosphere. And it's probably going to be up there about 45,000 feet would be my guess. Usually that's what happens.
Yep.
Yeah, 43,000 right in the middle there pretty much. There you can see North Liberty, and there is Interstate 80. So the storm is now getting pretty close to Interstate 80, heading off to the northeast. But the part that's the worst is right down in here, and it's up in this region where you're going to see the hail and the heavier rains. But there is a nice notch, and as Rebecca said, there's some pretty good inflow there, which is driving the storm at this point. So once again, on the fan here, you can see this is going to come up right towards Iowa City and even Kinnick Stadium by around 6:58 this evening. And so if you're anywhere in North Liberty, Tiffin, Coralville, Iowa City, Sharon Center, places like that, this is the time to take shelter. This is definitely a pretty healthy looking storm here, and hasn't produced a tornado touchdown just yet, but all the other parameters are there that would indicate this storm is capable of doing that sort of thing.
The hills area as well. And I will say that, you know, Nick's saying that he's starting to see funnel clouds now, and that's just the next step. We see a wall cloud, we see a funnel cloud.
Yeah, let's get back to Nick then.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he's So he must be in an area where there's not a lot of signal there. So we'll have to see what he's seeing out there, but he usually communicates on the chat too. So I'll see. He hasn't said anything there either, but we'll have to see if there's a touchdown with that funnel cloud, then we have a tornado on the ground. We haven't had any confirmation of that yet, though.
All right, so Nick, his signal is down for the moment. Sometimes you get out in the open country like that, you don't get the best internet signal, but he will be advancing in with the storm here, getting closer to Iowa City. So I'm sure we're going to pick that up here shortly, and we will get back to you. But he is indicating that at least the storm is trying to generate some sort of a funnel right now, but nothing has touched down. We do want to stress that. No confirmed tornadoes, but a healthy-looking wall cloud here from this storm, which is going to be moving northeast into Iowa and Johnson counties, and that's where we have tornado warnings in effect until 7 o'clock this evening. And this is the polygon right in this region here. If you're anywhere in that, that's the area you need to be concerned about. If you're inside of that polygon there, you are in the path of this dangerous thunderstorm, which continues to move northeast. I'm thinking around 35 miles an hour. Do you have any confirmation on that?
Yeah, it's about 35 miles an hour, yep. Okay. And I want to zoom out here and kind of show people what's going on, because you might be getting alerts on your phone too that we have now these tornado watches posted. We don't have much else going on across the rest of the area here. We have a couple of showers. So that's good news, but this is the one storm. It is down in portions of Iowa and Johnson counties as tornado warned. Up too.
Yeah, there it is. All right, yes, absolutely, Rebecca. So far, this is really the dominant storm, not being influenced by any other storms around eastern Iowa. So it is gobbling up all the moisture and instability there. And now we're starting to see a hail core right in there. So if we go back to our hail product, I'm quite certain that we're going to see a little bit more than what we did a little bit earlier. But there is the actual wall cloud off to the east of us, and that is where the area of hail would be found here. So that's south of Oxford there, moving northeast towards Interstate 80. And Nick's picture pretty much tells the tale. This is what we are watching tonight, a potentially developing tornado that would be southwest of Iowa City, moving in a northeasterly direction. And that's a pretty healthy looking wall cloud there. I've seen a bunch of those in my days, and that one certainly does have that potential to get a tornado down to the ground. But at this point, I don't see evidence of really hard rotation. But if we can get back to Nick, maybe we can talk a little bit more to him and he can give us an update. All right, Nick, why don't you give us an idea what you're seeing right there tracking that storm?
Yeah, Terry, you can definitely see the wall cloud continues to form there. This is northwest of Kalona. We had a pretty well-defined funnel there not too long ago. It kind of dissipated a little bit, but it looks like it's really starting to tighten up. Over the last about 5 to 10 minutes, this whole wall cloud has really kind of been tightening in this one smaller area. And that's exactly kind of what we are looking for in terms of seeing possible tornadoes, is the rotation kind of centralizing, and that's happening right there. That little tip that's coming on down, that's kind of what we saw about 2 minutes ago. We're starting to see a funnel forming with the storm. Again, this is northwest of Kalona, approximately just west of Highway 1 by about a mile or two. We are definitely seeing that funnel form again. We're starting to get out ahead of the RFD, that rear flank downdraft I mentioned before. We're now starting to get back into the inflow of this storm. Our temperature actually shot up 11 degrees to give you an idea of what this storm is doing. So this storm is definitely still ingesting very warm, moist air, Terry.
Yeah, big bowl-shaped wall cloud there. That is a very impressive sight, to say the least. And I know Nick Weig also indicated that there were some power outages coming in from that general area down there. We would assume that they're related to the storm, but we do not think there's been any sort of tornado touchdown, so I'm not sure if that's related to wind or what. But the bottom line is that's what we're hearing from him. And we have contact with Nick, is that right? Okay. Hey, Nick, what do you see or hearing out there about the power outages?
Well, Terry, you've been talking about, and we've been seeing from Nick Stewart, that we've been having some trouble communicating with him and getting pictures from him. And part of that is this is kind of a remote area. That's why there's not a lot of signal there. There's not a lot of population. And we've been monitoring the outage reports both from Mid-American Energy and Alliant Energy, who both have customers in this area. And we're seeing just single digits in the area where this storm has passed through. Right now, we don't know for sure that those are weather related, but it does time out with when the storms passed over those areas. As for any other additional reports, we've been monitoring social media here through our Banjo app across eastern Iowa. We're not seeing any pictures of the storm. We're not seeing any reports that aren't coming into the Weather Center right now. But if you do see anything and you are in a safe position, feel free to tweet those to us, email them to us, and we'll be sure to pass those along. But of course, above all else, you need to stay safe out there until this storm clears your area. Terry?
All right, excellent news. I'm glad to hear the reports on that coming in. And here's our wall cloud once again, and it certainly looks pretty ominous out there. Just haven't quite got the tornado down to the ground. Let's hope it stays up in there, but the circulation is certainly in the mid-levels, showing up very clearly on our radars here. And boy, that's getting pretty close. It might be trying to do a little bit of a funnel right in there as we speak. Whether or not that goes down to the ground remains to be seen, but now you're starting to see the rotation and what appears to be a funnel developing with the storm. And there it is. It is certainly trying to come down. As soon as we get past this tree and this house here, we'll have a better look at it, but it's really trying hard to do it. Look at that, right in there. You are just about to see a tornado touch the ground here, and there it is. There's debris. Look at that, coming right out of there, fanning out. You can see it up in the air there. So we do have a tornado touchdown, and it looks like this is, well, just south of Oxford. Is that correct, Rebecca?
Yeah, it is just west of Hills, north of Kalona, almost due north of Kalona near Highway 1.
And there it is, folks. I mean, look at that roping out right in there. There it is. We are just north of Kalona. I want to stress to you, if you're down there in Johnson County, this is a dangerous storm, a confirmed tornado. You're seeing it right there on the ground. Watch for the power flashes when it comes over here. We'll see if we get one. Might have gotten through there without any. Didn't see any. But there is debris. You can see that crossing right over the road there. What road is that, Rebecca?
Highway 1.
That is Highway 1?
That is Highway 1.
Okay. Amazing sight there. Actual tornado, live tornado right now in eastern Iowa in Johnson County, southwest of Iowa City. Nick, let's hear what you got to say about this thing. That's a pretty amazing sight. You're right on the tail of it.
This is condensating very rapidly, Terry. This is definitely a pretty decent tornado. It's got really quick rotation. You were watching it live right here on CBS2. Trees were getting ripped out of the ground at the base of this tornado. This is very rapid rotation right now, very close to Kalona. This is northwest of Kalona. Rebecca, if you haven't already, if you can pass along to the NWS chat that we have a tornado on the ground. We're now in the RFD, the rear flank downdraft of this tornado. Look at that. They got horizontal suction vortices in that. That is a strong tornado right now. We are going right here. Strong tornado right now. This is west of Hills, southwest of Iowa City. This is heading towards you, Iowa City. Iowa City, you need to take shelter now. This is a confirmed damaging tornado heading in your direction, and you are watching it live here.
All right, Rebecca, let's go back to the radar here. If we can split screen this, obviously we don't want to take off the tornado, so let's keep that up there if at all possible. And I'm sure you're going to get that taken care of. But I do want to try to pinpoint precisely where the tornado is on the ground. Rebecca, if you can get in a little bit closer on it. It looks like it's really close to Sharon Center there. I think you're up in this region right in here. That's where we've got our circulation. And so very close to Sharon Center right now, moving off to the northeast. And this will be approaching Iowa City. Can we get a little bit off to the northeast and show where Iowa City is located in there? There you go. There's Iowa City right in there. So there's Sharon Center where our tornado is very close to. And that'll be going up into Johnson County right in here. There's Interstate 80, storm moving northeast about 35 miles, a confirmed damaging tornado on the ground now in Johnson County. It's probably been down for at least a minute, minute and a half, and it does look like it has expanded in size, and it continues to move off northeast, and at the track that it is going, it will be moving into the southern part of Iowa City. If you're in Iowa City, this is definitely the time to take shelter. The storm is producing a damaging tornado and will be approaching the southern part of the Iowa City metro area here in the next few minutes. Now is the time to take shelter. This is the real deal. Can we go back to our polygon too, if possible here, Rebecca? I want to show people where our warning is currently located. And there it is right in there. So you can see here's Iowa City, and that extends down towards Hills. Looks like the actual tornado, which is located right in there, is going to move northeast and approach Iowa City. Can we go to the CC, the correlation coefficient now? We'll be able to see if we can get some actual debris showing up there, a debris drop. and that would be in this part of the storm right over in here. So it does look like what the radar is trying to show here is that there is some debris being picked up in the air, and it's going to show a higher return than it would otherwise. And so that's where we can see some of the debris that's being tossed into the air. But look at the live tornado there, which is now moving through Johnson County on its way towards Iowa City. Very intense circulation, a healthy tornado, good stovepipe there, heading northeast at about 35 miles per hour. And very tight rotation. This thing looks really healthy. Nick continues to track it out there in the Road Warrior. And going back to our radar there is Sharon Center, which is where the tornado is close to. It appears that it has not hit Sharon Center, but moving to the northeast, it is going to go very close to Iowa City. So let's kind of punch this back this way a little bit so we can see where the storm is actually going to approach here. And there is where Iowa City is, and there is where the tornado is. Like, can we do a little measurement there, Rebecca? Actually, mileage-wise?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're going to see how far away that is from actual downtown Iowa City. Probably less than 8 to 9 miles from Iowa City, and a fairly large tornado now on the ground. This is a dangerous storm. I cannot stress enough, if you're in the Iowa City metro area, this tornado is approaching you, and it is a large enough one that it will produce significant damage and perhaps even injuries if you are not taking proper precautions. So you need to get to your safe place, particularly the basement if at all possible. Storm now looking like it's maybe perhaps an eighth, maybe even a quarter of a mile wide. That's a healthy looking tornado there, a dangerous one to say the least. Can't stress enough, if you're in the Iowa City, Johnson County area, you definitely need to take shelter as an intense tornado continues to advance towards you. It is growing wider now. I am guessing that's at least a quarter mile wide, and we've got very intense, strong rotation associated with it. And right in there is where the tornado would be located. There you can see hills. There you can see Iowa City. Let's go in just a little bit closer if you could on that, Rebecca, and kind of push it back that way because this is where it's going. So anything up in here is under the gun. This is a dangerous place to be right now. There's Melrose Avenue right in there. There's Highway 1 coming into the south side of Iowa City, the airport located right in this region here. Probably some hail falling in this part of the storm here, but there's the intense circulation. And as you can see in the live picture here behind me, that is the tornado that is on the ground. Going in closer, look at that. You can actually see the debris that's being tossed around it. So this is picking up trees right now. Fortunately, it's out in an open field, but you can actually watch the trees being picked into the air and flown around. The same thing, any sort of cars, homes, anything that's in the path of that violent circulation there is going to be torn up, which is why we're telling you it's a dangerous scenario and you need to take shelter. And look at the structure on that storm. That is really, really intense.
It has just been getting bigger and bigger, and we're seeing that signal still in velocity. I mean, it's not weakening anytime soon there either. And this is just to the north of the town of Sharon Center, and this is east of Highway 1 and near Sharon Center Road Southwest. And this is just to the southeast of Iowa City. That is the next city in the path here. And if it goes on this path, it continues this way, it's going to cross Sharon Center Road, and then it would get close to Highway 218. That'd be the next road right there, Terry.
I'm just absolutely amazed at the sights we're seeing here. This is a live picture. If you're just joining us now, a tornado warning is in effect for Johnson County. This tornado is on the ground. Not too far southwest of Iowa City, probably about 5 or 6 miles away. It's been on the ground now, I'm guessing for close to 8 or 10 minutes, moving in a northeasterly direction, and at least up to this point hasn't shown any signs yet of weakening. At some point, these things usually do cycle a little bit, and sometimes they can ebb and flow and go back up into the clouds and then even come back down. But right now, this one is on the ground, and it is producing damage, and it now looks to be a multiple vortex tornado there. You can actually see within the storm itself, little fingers rotating around it. And Nick is back on it now, and here's his latest observation. Well, it looks like multiple vortexes there, Nick.
Yeah, Tara, this is incredible. This is a multi-vortex wide tornado. You can see the entire mesocyclone on this tornado rotating. This is very quickly approaching Iowa City. This is the loudest tornado I've ever heard. It had an incredible roar to it. This is a strong, strong tornado as it's beginning to look like it's lifting right now, but you can still see there are still some vortices on the ground. Again, right now we are looking just off to our northwest. Thankfully, very rural areas, but it is quickly right now approaching Iowa City. You can still see suction vortices are on the ground. This is incredible rotation with this storm right now. Again, this is a few miles southwest of Iowa City, heading in that direction. We're hoping this thing lifts permanently. It looks like it's weakening a little bit, but there's still very strong rotation with it. I gotta tell you, the Sheriff County deputies passed us up here. They're up on that road. They are very close to that tornado right now. But again, this is southwest of Iowa City, fairly rural areas. This is likely right along Highway 1 right now between Iowa City and Kalona.
And as we mentioned, these storms do tend to cycle, and that doesn't mean that it's completely done producing a tornado, but right now it appears that most of it has gone back up into the actual wall cloud. But we still have very tight, hard rotation there, indicating this storm is certainly capable of producing another one, and it's very possible, as these things do develop and cycle like this one, that another tornado will touch down here very shortly, and you can just watch the spin in the actual circulation there. But we are at least pleased to say right now it appears the tornado has gone back up, but could easily come back down. So don't let your guard down. If you're in Iowa City, a dangerous storm continues to approach you from the south and west.
This is just in between Sharon Center Road and Highway 1 is where Nick is looking at right now.
And we're quite sure that the tornado has done some damage, but it's been out in rural areas, so hopefully nothing has been hit in terms of structures or homes or anything like that. But we did see the debris flying up into the air, and once again on our radar here, that is where we have what's known as a couplet, and we have an opposing wind field here. One is red, you can see that. Here's your blue, so you got your inbounds and outbounds, and right in there where those come together, that's where your actual tornado is located, and it continues to move northeast. And here is Iowa City. There's Melrose Avenue there, and there's Highway 1 coming in from the west-southwest there, and there is 218. Let's go down to some street level mapping too, and we'll be able to show you just how close this is to Iowa City and where we're specifically. There you can see 218 that runs from Coralville there onto the west side of Iowa City, and that is where the circulation is that has been producing the tornado. So this is getting real close. What would you say now, 3 miles from Iowa City?
Yeah, probably just about 3 or 4 miles.
Okay, and there it is right there.
Closer to 6 miles. I mean,
that's downtown Iowa City.
That's downtown, so you're getting into
serious population
Mormon
right
Trek
there.
right there, about 3 miles away.
Right, and you can see the funnel is very close to the ground, might not be touching right now, but still an intense circulation associated with the storm moving northeast towards Iowa City. And hopefully we can keep this thing up in the sky here as it approaches the southwestern part of Iowa City in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
I will say, Terry, I'm going to back up this velocity here, this rotation. You can see where we are seeing some weakening happen. But like you said, these storms do tend to cycle. So we're definitely seeing some improvement in terms of weakening with that storm, and the rotation that Nick's getting right there, it's not as intense as it was just a little bit ago. So they have extended now the tornado warning to the northeast into Cedar and Muscatine counties until 7:45. So of course still includes Johnson County.
All right, let's go back to Nick Stewart, who's chasing the storm in our Road Warrior live now just to the west-southwest of Iowa City.
Hey, Terry, we are southwest of Iowa City. It's very hard to make out in the rain. We kind of got some rain between us and the tornado right now, so the contrast isn't as great. But I will tell you that you can definitely still see the rain band. It's a little bit easier to see in person than it is on this video screen right now. The rain bands under that large wall cloud, they continue to rotate rapidly. So it's either very close to the ground, if not on the ground right now, still approaching Iowa City. This is an extreme situation. We have a lot of tornado warnings that may not verify. This is one you were watching live this entire time. It is approaching Iowa City. And again, at times, I would almost use the word violent. The roar on this tornado was absolutely significant. and we're getting the new alerts on our phone from the new tornado warning you were just talking about. But again, still a low-hanging wall cloud, definitely a funnel with it as well. I cannot tell for certain if it's on the ground, but if you've been watching us for the last 10, 15 minutes, you know for a fact it can do it at any moment. So if you're in Iowa City, Coralville, even North Liberty, maybe as far as North Liberty, this is a strong tornado-producing storm approaching your area right now.
And just looking at the actual radar right now here, I'm thinking this is definitely going to pass to the south of Coralville. The storm itself here looks like it's going to come right up to the east-northeast and come right towards downtown Iowa City. And it's this part of the storm, right in here, where you're actually looking at the rotation and the potential for the tornado. But with Nick's picture, it does not appear the tornado is on the ground anymore. But the wall cloud is certainly still there. We're still seeing a rotation, and we're not done with this storm just yet, that is for sure. But it does appear, at least on the velocity mode, that it has weakened some during the past 5 minutes or so. We had a much stronger signature back towards New Sharon, and now the actual signature not nearly as intense. And if you want to just kind of toggle back and forth on that, we can show people what we're talking about here.
So I'm just going to back this up to
Sharon Center, that's
about
yeah.
6:45 there, and you can see the blues and the reds,
right
really
in there.
intense circulation, and then now we're starting to see some greens and reds. So that's
Right.
just showing the weakening of that.
The blue is no
velocity.
longer in there. That's
Yes.
the thing we wanted to show you. However, there's still a couplet there, and there is still obvious rotation. And as you can see in our live picture from the Road Warrior, we still have the wall cloud, but it is not nearly as close to the ground as it was earlier, and not producing a tornado at this time. But it has produced damage, was on the ground, I'm guessing, for close to 8 or 10 minutes as it moved through portions of Johnson County. But at least now, getting closer to Iowa City does not look nearly as ominous on the live pictures from the Road Warrior as it did a little bit earlier. If I can talk to Nick again, I wouldn't mind doing that. Nick, just wanted your interpretation of the rotation.
Right now there, a tree down.
There you can see a tree has been knocked over the road. Nick, tell us what you're seeing right there.
Yeah, right now we are just maybe 2-3 miles southwest of Iowa City right now. Again, this is debris that definitely came from this tornado crossing the road here. I can tell you during this area, it didn't appear visually to be on the ground, but as you can clearly see, it definitely was. There's definitely debris still on the road. We're going to see if we can navigate around some of this. We're not entirely sure yet, but there's definitely a lot of tree damage. I can see a building right behind these trees. It has some roof damage. It does appear that it did narrowly miss these two homes here southwest of Iowa City. We're about a mile south of Highway 1 on Sharon Center Road Southwest. So again, there is definitely some tree damage out here, but not seeing any structural damage at the time.
Are you going to be able to advance forward there, Nick? Can you get around it?
We're going to investigate that right now. We're actually, our photojournalist Scott Zimda is helping us kind of remove some of the trees here. We're going to see if we can be able to get moving here. Again, the main reason we're doing this is to try and get everybody early warning of what's going on here. And hopefully we were able to do that for Iowa City.
Also, to those of you in the booth, if you want to look at the Highway 218, Highway 1 camera, I know the DOT is tracking the storm too, so we might be able to get a visual there if you want to try and pull that up. That would be great.
And since we can't actually see the tornado right now visually anymore, at least the wall cloud, I want to go back to the radar here. We'll keep the split screen up so you can see what's going on with our crew out there. But the actual circulation has really weakened considerably. We're probably somewhere in this general area here is about where the tornado was located. So as it's come towards Iowa City, it really has lost a lot of its intensity. It is no longer producing a tornado as it was earlier. And it was a very strong, violent tornado for a short period of time. It did do some damage, as we can see off in our picture here, but now the actual circulation has really eased back, and I do not think there is any tornado on the ground. However, if you're in Iowa City, that doesn't mean that this thing could not re-intensify. It's a very common process for storms of this nature. So right in here is where that circulation is still located, moving off to the northeast, so it is going to go directly over Iowa City. The wall cloud is definitely going to be in Iowa City. So if it were to come back down to the ground, ground, it's going to be on you just like that. So you're not out of the woods yet in Iowa City. You need to stay in your safe place there. Also, our tornado warning is now out until 7:45. It's extended northeast, and now Cedar and parts of Muscatine counties are actually in the tornado warning. And there you can see where Iowa City is, and right in there is where the hook echo is located on the tail end of our storm there. So that is just one gigantic supercell. The whole storm is actually rotating with a tornado at one time coming out of that right there southwest of Iowa City.
And Terry, there has been a report from a spotter that they are seeing a funnel visible from Springdale looking towards Iowa City. So that's indicating at least we don't have a tornado on the ground, but the possibility that we could see it cycling. You can see the wall cloud off there in the distance.
You can also notice too that this thing is definitely not nearly as close to the ground as it was. The bases have actually even come
lifted,
up.
yeah.
So to me, it's gotten into an environment that is not nearly as favorable, and it's clearly up in the air. There is no tornado touching ground. We can see right there visually, but there is still the wall cloud and it is still rotating. So it's still a dangerous storm. But at least going over the metro Iowa City right now, very good news in the fact the tornado itself has lifted for the time being. And this is 218 we're looking at here in Melrose Avenue, if I'm correct. Yes, at the top of the screen there.
Yeah, so it looks like the rotation's just starting to pass right over 218 there. And I mean, pretty much over Iowa City right now.
In fact, if we go back to our radar here, can we go back to the other view there, Rebecca, just the reflectivity?
Oh, yes.
You can actually see a pretty good hook in there. See how it's spinning around like that? That's where your inflow is going into the center of the actual tornado. That's imparting the spin here. And fortunately, something has definitely weakened enough here to get the thing back up in the clouds. But that right in there is the part that could produce a tornado again, and it looks like it's going to be going right over Iowa City. But that is going to miss Coralville, it is going to miss North Liberty, and should go south of Newport here, but it is going to cross Iowa City and go up towards Interstate 80 here. And looks like this, that's Highway 1, I believe, that goes on up towards Solon there. It would go south of Solon as well. But somewhere between West Branch and Solon is most likely where the storm is going to track as it gets up into parts of Johnson and Cedar County here in the next few minutes. And our warning still out now until 7:45, so that has been extended a little bit further northeast. Now you can go back to the velocity, Rebecca, and we'll see if we can't pick out that circulation.
It's really weak in there, which is great news, right over Iowa City.
Right.
So, I mean, the wall cloud literally passing just south of the downtown area there along Highway 6.
Yes, indeed. So there's 218 passing through the southwest side of Iowa City, and this is almost going right over the southern part of Iowa City. I mean, it is going right over southern Iowa City, but we have really lost a lot of the intensity and rotation that was associated with the storm. So right now, no tornado on the ground, but we did have one that lasted probably at least 8 to maybe 10 minutes as it came in from the southwest towards Iowa City. And now we're at 7:02 according to the radar here, and the storm is right on Iowa City. And so far, we haven't heard any reports of any large hail or really strong winds associated with the storm, but certainly it did have a tornado for a while here, and it came quick. Okay, let's go to that. Yeah, we have a Pentacrest camera here in downtown Iowa City.
A lot of rain.
Yep, and they're on the north side of the storm here, which is, as we mentioned, the side you don't want to come in on if you're chasing, because that's what happens. You get the rain, you get the hail, and you can't really see the tornado until it's right on top of you. But intense rain now occurring in the downtown Iowa City area, and that is the Pentacrest there. And it looks like the tornado, what was left of it anyway, is going to pass a little bit south of that area. So just south of downtown Iowa City is where the core of the storm is going.
And I will say that we continue to get some reports of a funnel cloud as well, but we saw how high the base was on that storm, that it's, you know, luckily not close to the ground, so hopefully it can continue to weaken here. But that was earlier, what you're seeing there from the Road Warrior, the tornado on the ground earlier near Sharon Center.
And this circulation grew and grew, and it might have reached as much as a quarter of a mile. But from what we've seen so far, it appears that it was pretty much out in the open country. But you'll eventually see, if we continue to run this out, It starts to pick up trees and debris from the ground, and it's just tossing it up in the air. So it is doing real damage and getting whiter and whiter here, and it eventually turns into what we call a stovepipe tornado with really tight, intense rotation, and that was heading directly towards Iowa City before it decided to weaken about 5 miles west of time. So it has lifted, not on the ground, but our Nick Weig is, I guess Nick Stewart, and we're going to go back to him now.
Yeah, they're just getting around the trees there. A lot of trucks showed up, so they're finally getting out of there. But
Nick,
all the extensive tree damage there.
All right, Nick, fire away.
Yeah, we were intercepted the course of this tornado. We got blocked by trees. We couldn't do it by our own, but we kind of got an army here. Now we have power lines down, so all of that was for naught. We now have power lines down the road up here. I did, right when we got here, I ran to all these homes here. Nobody was injured after we checked. The homeowner right here was not in their residence. And then that other home that we passed by a little bit ago, she was uninjured. She was taking shelter, and she was very appreciative of the coverage because that was one of the reasons she took shelter. Was because of the warning that we were trying to give everybody here. Again, this damage path, it's about a mile south of Highway 1 on Sharon Center Road Southwest. There's some minor building damage, but overall, it looks like everybody escaped the worst of it. And I got to tell you, man, that was a very violent tornado. It had a very, very audible roar when it crossed the path here.
And Nick, how long would you say it was on the ground? We were estimating maybe 8 to 10 minutes.
I would say probably close to 10 minutes. Yeah, that sounds about right. We saw the condensation funnel come all the way down. I think you guys had that live right when it happened. And then we tracked it from Kalona to here. Let me kind of just try and do get a rough estimate of how long that was on the ground, because it was quite a while, measuring distance. From here to where we first saw it kind of touch down was approximately 10 miles. So this is on the ground for at least 10 miles. And it might have been even on the ground longer than that past here.
And it was a multiple vortex tornado. You want to give an estimation of how strong? You think F2?
I will tell you, I was a few hundred yards away from a pretty violent EF3 2-3 years ago, and I don't think I watched trees get rocketed out of the ground as fast as this tornado did. In one of those little small suction vortices that was wrapping around this tornado, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it was probably close to EF5 strength. Again, very small area, but it was incredibly violent, very strong suction vortices. I've never heard a tornado as loud as this one. It's just simply unbelievable.
Well, the National Weather Service will obviously be out doing a damage survey tomorrow. We'll have the official answer as to how strong it was. But now you can see there was certainly quite a bit of damage as the tornado tracked just to the southwest of Iowa City. But let's go back to the radar here one more time. And you can see what's left of the circulation has now started to pass east of Iowa City here, and we don't have that really tight, intense couplet like we had earlier tonight. So the winds are not rotating nearly as hard, but there is still some broad rotation in the storm here east of Iowa City, and as it passes northeast, it looks like it will just miss West Branch and then head on up into Cedar County. And there you can see up around Cedar Bluff, looks like the storm is headed in your general direction. And we do have a tornado watch. I'm going to let Rebecca talk a little bit about that too, because a tornado watch has been issued for the area. And there's the storm off in the distance there. Still looks pretty impressive, I must say that.
Yeah, it still has that inflow notch there and the hook on it. So we're talking about strong winds coming in, and that is obviously indicating that we could still have this storm pick up in intensity there, but that's just showing you, I mean, we saw that happen really quickly, and we have the ingredients out there today for tornadoes. Luckily, this is the only storm that's really out there and strengthening right now, but we do have a tornado watch that is posted until midnight that runs from Dubuque through Lynn County down to Iowa County and to the southeast until midnight tonight.
And this is what we call a supercell thunderstorm. That thing you're looking at there, That has been on the ground now, that Supercell Thunderstorm. I shouldn't say on the ground. The tornado was on the ground for about 10 minutes, but the Supercell Thunderstorm has been out there now for over an hour. It started well south of Kyoto and has been moving northeast ever since. And so this is a long-lived supercell, and it's not entirely dead just yet. I'm concerned that we could still see some redevelopment. And on the radar here, the most likely area for that would be here, and there might even be a little bit of additional rotation starting to take place over here around West Branch. But that's the primary circulation there that we were looking at earlier, which did produce the tornado touchdown. And right about in there is where there could still be some redevelopment. And so if you're in West Branch, the storm's going to come towards you, going to cross right over Interstate 80 here, and then get on to the north and should be up there towards Cedar Bluff and Cedar Valley as it tracks in that general direction. Still a very powerful, strong storm here, and a dangerous one at that. And that's why we have tornado warnings in effect for parts of Cedar, Johnson, and Muscatine counties until 7:45. But if you're in this part of our viewing area, the worst is over down here. No more concerns. You'd have to be up in this region right in here to have any impacts from the storm as it continues to move northeast. So you can see the polygon here. That's the warning. If you're in this part of it, that's where you need to respect the storm. It's coming towards you, will likely produce some heavy rain, some hail, and even perhaps a tornado as it moves northeast. But for now, the tornado is not on the ground.
Hey,
Rebecca?
Terry, I want to have you just get your batteries changed on your microphone
Sure.
because I think it might die. So I'm going to just talk a little bit here. I want to take a big picture here. We do not have any confirmation of a tornado on the ground right now, but the rotation is just east of Iowa City near I-80. That's heading towards West Branch, as Terry is mentioning there. Zooming out across the rest of the area, Cedar Rapids, it's raining now, but we don't have any warnings out in the area. Otherwise, we do have some additional showers and thunderstorms kind of scattered around. Good news is that we're not seeing any additional development. This storm has likely been so strong that it's going to start to stabilize the atmosphere a bit, which will help us out, and maybe we'll see that tornado watch get canceled early. But as we watch that tornado form very quickly, we do know that the ingredients are there for the possibility of tornadoes today. So we'll have to watch for any additional development. The rotation, though, is pretty broad, so it doesn't look like we have really a tight couplet like we saw earlier when we actually had that tornado. East of Iowa City, though, just kind of south of Highway 1, or rather I-80 and Highway 1 is where we would see that circulation currently.
And I'm guessing it's right up in this area here, somewhere in here. I mean, it's so broad right now, very difficult to actually see. But we want to go back to Nick, and he can give us an idea what he's seeing out there in the field now, live from the Road Warrior. Nick, your turn.
Yeah, we're still approaching, trying to get close to Iowa City. You can actually see still the big wall cloud in the distance. We're actually right in the damage path right now. You can see so far, amazingly, it has managed to avoid home after home. This house avoided a direct hit by this tornado. Right now, we are on Kansas Avenue Southwest, about 1.5 miles south of Highway 1. You can see all the tree damage around, and then you can see these power poles, these power lines are down here as well. So this tornado basically crossed the roadway right here. And you can see it's still obviously pretty strong to do all the damage. You can see the power poles are down right here. This one's actually literally broken in half, broken right about the midpoint. And that obviously caused a power outages problem in the area that I'm sure you guys are seeing. And again, this is the damage path. It was still on the ground, very, very close to Iowa City.
And extremely fortunate that it lifted when it did, because it was going into a very populated area there around Iowa City, and then finally it weakened and went right back up. But if you didn't see it earlier, we do have some live pictures of the actual tornado. Well, we caught it live, that is, they're on tape, but this is the tornado as it looked a little bit earlier this afternoon. And at this time, it was a pretty strong, violent circulation, and it was heading towards Iowa City, and it was definitely touching ground, doing damage. And if you look closely from time to time, you can actually see debris being kicked up into the air here. But the pictures are quite astounding. Hard to believe that's right here in eastern Iowa. Very intense storm. We'll just let you watch it for a second. And now it's really coming into its own here. and Nick said that he could hear it roaring out there in the road warrior. He was probably a mile from it, if that. And he's tracked quite a few tornadoes in his day and said that was easily the largest that he's seen and heard here in the state of Iowa. And somewhere in here, I think there'll be a little bit of debris being kicked up, but I guess that's the end of our video. And now going back to the radar, this is really broadened out now, and you can see way off in the distance in our picture too, not seeing any evidence of that wall cloud. So I think for now, it is safe to say that this thing has weakened sufficiently that there is no tornado on the ground, and at this point, might not be any additional tornadoes if this does not sharpen up and tighten up here in the next few minutes. But we still have our tornado warning out for parts of Cedar and Johnson County until 7:45 this evening. But right now, we just don't have a lot on here to indicate a really tight circulation or any sort of tornado that would be touching the ground.
I did just get some photos in from someone looking from Coralville, and you can see a funnel cloud, but it is way up there in the sky and nothing like what we saw earlier. So that's also some good news.
And it's hard to say when that picture was taken too, right? That was just...
There's a couple of photos that have been coming in that have been giving me times, but I'm gonna guess that was maybe 5 minutes ago.
And that might not have even been the actual same part of the storm that was producing the tornado too.
That's true. We saw a little bit of the circulation or inflow around West Branch.
So it's a little tough to say. There is a little rope tornado there showing just above the house. You look really close to that pole, you can see it extending onto the north-northwest. So perhaps that was the bigger one that is weakening and dying, or it could be another one, that little spin-off there. Sometimes you even get satellite tornadoes that will come from the main branch of the storm. But that's was shot apparently in Coralville, correct?
Just looking from Coralville.
Okay. So it's been a really intense hour here in parts of eastern Iowa, particularly Johnson County, where a strong thunderstorm developed and moved northeast and produced a tornado. And now that seems to have lifted, and conditions are much more calmer, let's put it that way, around eastern Iowa. If you can just go back to the regular mode of the radar here and expand the picture, just want to see what's going on around the rest of eastern Iowa, because we do have a tornado watch that is in effect for much of eastern Iowa, at least southeastern Iowa now until, what, midnight tonight?
That is until midnight, so I'll throw that up there for you.
Yeah, there you go. So if you're in these counties here in yellow, there is still some tornado threat until midnight tonight. Now this area here has been worked over pretty good, so if you're down around Iowa City or southwest of there, your chances are diminished somewhat, but where the air is still pure off to the east of this, the chances are much better of seeing some additional spin-ups. But at the rate these storms are going, looks like they will be getting out of our viewing area here in about the next 1 to 2 hours. Our eastern counties should be cleared of that. But that storm there now, further to the southeast of Iowa City, looks pretty intense too. You can see it just northeast of Washington there. Now that'll be going into Muscatine County, and so that would avoid our area. But we do have viewership in West Liberty, and if you're down there, that's a storm we'll want to watch right in there. That's the other one up here around West Branch that did produce the tornado earlier. This one doesn't have any obvious tight circulation with it right now, but it does look like that storm has intensified quite a bit and really popped up here in the past few minutes. And then I could just hear the rain here in Cedar Rapids, so we've obviously had a pretty healthy little cell come through here, and it looks like that is now exiting the northeast side of the town. But I don't know if we've got any evidence of rotation in that one. We might take a quick look there on our velocity mode. And if it was to be happening, it'd be right in this part of the storm here. If it is showing some rotation, and there might be a little bit, it's very broad and nothing tornado threatening there, that's for sure. That storm moving off to the northeast. And the other ones that were a little bit further east of there, we'll go back and take a look at those on the regular view and just kind of give you an idea where storms currently are found. So there's Cedar Rapids and Springville over towards Anamosa. Another batch developing there between Center Point and Central City, and not too far off from Walker. And then these storms up here in the northeastern parts of the state, not exhibiting the structure that would produce any tornadoes, and the parameters there just not nearly as conducive for that. But These storms can all produce very heavy rainfall, and last night some parts of this area had as much as 3 inches of rain, that coming on very saturated ground, and the flooding threat is very pronounced here in eastern Iowa going through the holiday weekend. We're going to see several more rounds of storms around here, and each and every one of those could produce more locally heavy rain, and that's why a flash flood threat is certainly existent as we go through the next few days. And that right in there is the storm that did produce the tornado that passed just to the west-southwest of Iowa City and now moving northeast. But it looks like it's going to bypass West Branch there, but it is still pretty hooky, and we do have some circulation in the mid-levels of the storm, but nothing that's showing up at the ground right now. And you can see while the greens and reds have really spread out here, that's a much broader rotation. When the tornado is really well developed, you get that very tight color in a very small area, and then you know you got a pretty good chance of getting a tornado down to the ground. At this point, everything's pretty broad in here, but we'll have to watch it because it is going into some pretty unstable air here off to the east, and there could be some additional strengthening. But for now, nothing on the ground, but our tornado warning remains in effect until 7:45 for Cedar and Johnson counties.
I will also say that if you're in Iowa City, this is now east of Iowa City, so you are in the clear from the storm.
Absolutely. They have not dropped the warning just yet. Oh, I guess they have. Iowa City is now out of it, so they've pinched it off right in there. So it's that area east-northeast of Iowa City that needs to be watching closely as the storm now heads on up towards Cedar Bluff, Cedar Valley, and then Tipton up here would be next in line. That's one of the next major towns. But want to stress right now, no tornadoes on the ground like we saw earlier this afternoon. And here's some of the cities in the path of it, and there's not a whole lot in that immediate area there. But in Cedar Valley, core of that storm should be around 7:32 and about 7:44 in the Tipton area. And if you're in this cone here, that's the most likely area for the development of a tornado. Don't have any on the ground now, need to stress that. But if it were to happen and the storm could re-strengthen, that's where it would most likely be on this line right through here. And that's why this polygon has been issued in this warning until 7:45. Now, we have a flash flood watch. We talked a little bit about that. And I don't know if you can find it in the system over there, but if you do, we'll be able to show our viewers that as well. And this is actually out until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. And some of these storms are easily going to produce another inch or two of rain. And so that's a big concern because the grounds are incredibly saturated around eastern Iowa. Some of them about 99% saturation in terms of the amount of soil moisture. So any rain just does not absorb, it just runs off. And so the rivers and streams are susceptible to flooding around eastern Iowa. And I see now over in the Quad Cities, the Mississippi is projected to crest there again at around 21.5 to 23 feet. If it does reach 23 feet in the Quad Cities, that would establish an all-time new record. They just set one here not too long ago. So the river is expected to rise once again from Dubuque down to the Quad Cities and back into southeastern Iowa. And any of our other tributaries are likely going to see some pretty good rises here as these heavy rains continue from time to time in the next few days. So just want you to know that threat is out there. We'll see what happens with the additional storms here in the next 2 days. But that's your flood watch.
And there are some people on Facebook talking about a report of a tornado near the Iowa City airport. There was a law enforcement report there. I would maybe venture to guess that it was perhaps just a funnel cloud, as we didn't really have really confirmation of that touching the ground again there. But there, I just wanted to, if anything did touch down, I would say it was probably very, very brief around there. But a lot of people are asking about a tornado at the Iowa City airport earlier.
Well, that was about where it went up. The Iowa City airport is located down here on the very south side of the town, and it was drawing a bead right for that. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, very close to the Iowa City airport. But I think that's about where it went up.
Just around there, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And now what's left of it has moved up into this region right in here, and we are still seeing a bit of a hook there associated with this big supercell thunderstorm. But so far, no reports of any tornadoes or funnel clouds here in the past few minutes. You haven't seen anything on chat, have you?
That's correct. Nothing there. There's just been just the report of the couple of funnel clouds, but nothing in the last probably 5 minutes.
Okay, and this is a DOT camera, and this is I-80 and Wapsie Avenue. Do we know if that's east of Iowa City towards West Branch? Okay, good. And so you're looking east of Iowa City here, and that is the wall cloud after it stopped producing the tornado. So even though you can't see it there because it's a still picture, that is still rotating, but there's no tornado drop down from the base of it. But that's the type of feature that we look for to produce a tornado. And going back to our radar here, once again, I mean, that's still a pretty healthy looking feature right in there. Let's go back to our velocity mode and see if we can't get a little bit better circulation on that. And, you know, still right in there, it is rotating. There's no doubt about that. So that's just north of West Branch by maybe 2 or 3 miles. So the storm center, anyway, has advanced north of West Branch, but it is still rotating up in this area here. So hopefully that doesn't tighten up anymore. But this is the region we'd have to watch right in here if there's going to be a new tornado form from that particular storm. And again, that's about two miles or so north of West Branch, and right in there is where Interstate 80 is. How about going back and let's look at some of those other storms too, because they can change pretty quickly when they start intensifying. And we had that other one a little bit south of this one. That's the storm here near West Liberty. And no severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings out for that cell, but it is intensifying and moving in an east-northeast direction. Most certainly, it is going to produce some very heavy rain and perhaps some small hail. And there's some new development there just to the east of Tipton. And then we got that line of storms there from east of Cedar Rapids to the south of Monticello. Goes through Anamosa. That looks a little hooky right in there too, just northeast of Cedar Rapids. We'll get in a little bit closer on that. And there's definitely some rotation in there. You can see it right in this region here. And so that storm has really tightened up. Maybe we can get an echo top on that. Let's see how tall that one is there. That would be just northeast of Cedar Rapids and Marion there. That's Alburnett. Now it looks like it's advanced off to the east, but it's about 30,000 feet in the atmosphere. That's a healthy storm, but not nearly as big as the one that went through the Iowa City area with a top of 45,000 feet a little bit earlier. But the storm is growing, and it does look like it has a better definition and has strengthened some in the past few minutes. And then going east over towards Anamosa, you can see some very heavy rains coming down in this area right in here. I'm talking some torrential downpours, and this region is under a tornado watch, so we'll have to keep tabs on these things as they move off through that general direction.
I will say also, I just turned the lightning on, and there's no lightning in these storms either, so
yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, they're just, I think, getting to that point where that's about, I noticed on the other storms in Iowa City, it took until they got about 30,000 feet, and then all of a sudden, poof,
started getting some lightning
off came
in
the
it.
lightning then.
Yeah.
So that's about the level where it seems to be kicking in today. But that one there, I would definitely keep an eye on that as it moves off to the east-northeast. And these storms up here do not have any history of severe weather whatsoever, but they're good rainmakers, and they're going to have some good downpours in that part of our viewing area.
The National Weather Service is saying an observed tornado for Cedar County now.
Okay, so we're back to there we go. See, she's tightening up. Look at that, right there, little donut in there. Okay, where are we at here? All
This
right,
is just northeast of West Branch.
Okay, that's
Cedar Valley.
That's it. So, again, these things do intensify, and they can do it very quickly, and that structure was strong there. So if you're in the Cedar Valley here, this has had a history of producing a tornado. It's a dangerous storm. You do need to take shelter. This is one of those days where we're not joking around here. This is serious business, and the circulation is probably somewhere in there, a little bit west of Cedar Valley by about a mile or so. It's not a real obvious tight couplet yet, but right in there, that's most likely where the tornado is occurring. And did you say that was confirmed?
They're saying that there is a law enforcement report of a tornado, and they say and they're saying observed.
Okay. Well, I know Nick is trying to get back on that. In fact, we haven't heard from Nick.
They are at a gas station right now.
They're getting gas.
Yes.
A bad time for that, isn't it? Well, anyway, there's the circulation we're going to have to really keep tabs on, too. That one is just to the west of Cedar Valley. Can you give that a little motion on there, and we'll see how that's actually tracking.
Sure.
And there's a picture earlier, and that's the wall cloud there. Okay, and if you can just, why don't you just toggle it back and forth real slow there, just so that's quite all right, but you get the general idea. And there we're going to watch this feature coming right in there. See how that's heading east-northeast? So it looked like that would probably track just west of Cedar Valley. But if you're in this portion of our viewing area, and that's now into Cedar County there, that tornado, or at least we were told it was a tornado from law enforcement, is moving northeast and will probably go just to the northwest of Cedar Valley. But if you're in this part of this area of Cedar County, you're in that polygon, you are in line for what could be a tornado-producing thunderstorm. And when Nick gets back from the gas station, we're obviously going to want to hear from him.
They're on the move now.
Okay. And anybody can give me some details on where he is, roughly? Okay. Hey, Nick, I hear you needed a little gas out there, huh?
Yeah, we needed to kind of gas up and kind of reassess. So we kind of lost a few things along the way. But yeah, we are back rolling. We understand that the tornado warnings are continuing downstream. So we're going to get back on Interstate 80, and we're going to head back eastward towards the West Branch area, where I understand there's possibly a tornado still ongoing. So we're going to try and get you some more live visuals. But we've been talking to people here in Iowa City. We stopped at the gas station, talked to a few folks. There were people that were traveling from Minneapolis to St. Louis, south through our area. They got the alert on their phone, and then they basically took shelter in the cooler of the gas station because of the warning they got. And they were talking about the fact that right now we're on Highway 1 and Highway 218. They're talking about the fact that the tornado was still on the ground very close to here. It lifted and then touched down again very, very close to the site. So even though we weren't able to see that classic, condensed tornado that we were watching earlier, it was apparently still on the ground, dropping at times, causing damage really close to this location.
Interesting information for sure. And this all happened, started happening probably an hour and a half or so ago. And we watched the wall cloud form live here on TV. And then we watched the whole scenario unfold as the tornado started approaching Iowa City. And I think it'd be an excellent idea if we have the video, we could go back to that one more time and show people what we were seeing here this afternoon. And look at the size and the rotation in that there. Ooh, that would have been a terrible thing if that would have hit a metro area, particularly like Iowa City. Tight rotation. That thing is really kicking it there.
And it strengthened fast, too. I mean, that went from 0 to nothing really quickly and got pretty large as well.
Yeah, look at the chunks of debris in there. Those look really small, but those are much larger pieces than you would think. Those could be chunks of trees or a fence, whatever it is, but there is just, that's a darn impressive looking tornado there. Incredibly tight. Wow.
And now there's from the spotter report saying they're still seeing rotation with the storm near Cedar Valley, but no tornado or funnel cloud at this time.
Okay, so that's good news. That's that storm we talked about around Cedar Valley that still had the hook on it there, right in this region. But at this point, it does not appear there's any tornado on the ground. But that's the structure you would look for a possible tornado. So it continues to rotate in this area here, moving off in an east-northeast direction. So that one is moving away from our viewing area and should be getting out of Cedar County, but it does have to go towards Tipton here and Wald, and up to the north of there you're getting towards Highway 30 once again. There's where Stanwood is located. So it looks like the storm on its current track would go just north of Tipton and then eventually up towards Loudon. We'll see what it does in terms of holding its intensity, but we're getting into that time of the evening now where we'll probably start losing a little bit of heating and some of the instability that tends to drive these things. But that's been a long track supercell there for pushing 2 hours now. And backing out on our view here, there you can see the Quad Cities. And so this is the eastern fringes of our viewing area right in here. So things are moving along pretty quickly from what I can see here. And I would say the threat of any severe weather is certainly done west of this line in here. Draw a line right down there.
Yeah, so that's some good news.
So that you're out of it for sure. But anywhere from southeast of Manchester, down here on Highway 13 towards Central City, off to the east, southeast of there, into Anamosa, Monticello, places like that, down into Cedar County. Still a chance. Could see a strong enough storm to produce a tornado, which is why we have our watch out. And we're going back out in the field now to Nick Stewart, who is back on the road again.
Yeah, right now I do have a few friends of mine that are actually still chasing the storm actively on Interstate 80, and they're basically confirming everything that you are saying right now as well. No confirmed tornado at the time, just north of Interstate 80. Again, that's kind of towards the Cedar Valley area. No tornadoes on the ground right now. We've been coming up 218 from Highway 1, really close to where that tornado was on the ground, and visually what we can see so far is nothing on the ground. We'll take you outside. Traffic is moving along without any issues right now on 218. We have not seen any other tree damage as well, so it really seemed to be focused just southwest of Iowa City. It was a very, very intense wrap-up storm. So now we're going to jump back on Interstate 80, head eastbound, and we're going to try and kind of stick with this storm, try and catch up with it, and basically chase it out of our viewing area so that we're kind of done with this severe weather threat for the rest of the night.
Before we let you loose there, Nick, I just want you to kind of recap your experience with the storm today. I don't think you or I were anticipating anything quite that intense or to happen quite that fast, but it really happened quickly.
I will say, you know, we were talking actually on CBS 2 News at 5 and 6 o'clock. At 5, we talked about how some of the conditions were kind of getting there, but we didn't know if storms would really form. But one thing that we talked about was the fact that the conditions were really kind of starting to come together. We knew the temperatures were really high, the dew points really high. I talked about that really strong south wind, and that creates wind shear. We had south winds at the surface, that southwest wind aloft, and that's when you had that rotation. And so we basically went down, tracked the storm down by Keokuk County. We were by the Kalona area. We actually had the wall cloud even before the tornado warning was issued. We showed you that wall cloud that was developing just northwest of Wellman. That tornado then touched down north of Wellman, came very close to Amish, just past the south of Windham, and then appears to have lifted very close to Iowa City. And we tracked that storm for maybe 10, 15 minutes. The track itself was probably more than 10 miles. And it was a strong tornado. Now, you've been showing video, if people haven't seen it already, very violent motion with that storm. I mean, it was taking debris and just lifting it. Now, again, I've been chasing tornadoes for a while. I've unfortunately seen tornadoes hit buildings. I did not see what appeared to be any buildings getting hit by that tornado. I haven't seen any reports coming in of that either. Buildings have a very distinctive look when they get hit by tornadoes, and thankfully it appears this thing really just slid around a lot of the different homes around here.
Well, I can tell you this much, Nick, you know, just between you and me, your pictures coming in were the first ones that could really confirm that we were seeing a wall cloud. You got on this before anybody else, and I saw you on the chat with the National Weather Service, letting them know that we were seeing rotation, that we had a wall cloud, and I think that really tipped them off to focus in on the storm even more, and then you kept them abreast of what was happening out there.
They said that they were watching us to actually see what was going on because
basically what
we had
happened,
it.
I mean...
That was Rebecca, I'm sorry. She was just...
Rebecca.
Go ahead, Rebecca. We'll let Rebecca talk first.
I was saying I told the National Weather Service that you had it, and they turned us on to actually watch what was going on because they were able to then pass along that additional information that they were seeing from your video. I mean, we were literally part of the warning process.
And that's the way it's supposed to work.
And that's
I mean,
part of the reason why we're out here. You know, some people get kind of concerned about us, you know, chasing. I mean, you got to keep in mind that collectively in this car, we have more than about 30 years of chasing experience. So when we know what we're doing, you notice during that entire time, we were never in a position where we felt dangerous. We were south of that tornado the whole time. We tracked it the whole time. And again, as you mentioned, I mean, that storm went from not a whole lot to producing a tornado very rapidly. And when we saw that wall cloud shortly before your main weather, Terry, during CBS 2 News at 6 o'clock, that's kind of when we knew, like, I think we might have something here.
Sure enough, it was an amazing experience. You know, I've been doing weather for 43 years on television, and that is the first time I have actually been able to stand alongside a live tornado. That was just a remarkable experience, and we're so fortunate that it managed to stay out in the open country.
So Terry, I'm going to guess that they're going to let this this tornado warning go unless they get some additional information. We do have a new severe thunderstorm warning, though, up in our northeastern counties.
And that is way up in our northeastern
All the way up
counties.
north.
Yeah, that's about as far north as you go. So you can see Minnesota up there, and there's far northeastern Iowa. It doesn't look overly impressive to me, to be quite honest with you, but there could be some gusty winds and hail with it. But they did go ahead and pull the trigger on it. That storm, though, is going to be moving northeast, so it'll be out of our viewing area probably next 15 minutes or so. But up there in Alameda and Winnebago counties,
Just
the far
north of
northern.
Decorah there till 8:15. But yeah, they're saying just 60-mile-an-hour winds.
Okay, well, we're not discounting it, but I don't think that one's going to do a whole lot, to be honest with you. Now, these storms here haven't really cycled up that I've seen anything impressive with here in the last few minutes or so, but we still have some broad rotation right in there. That would be just northwest of Springville, between there and Central City. Otherwise, further to the south, our other storm, as you mentioned, has really pretty much fallen apart now. That's what's left of it, which started well southwest of Iowa City, and now it's pretty much petering out there. But good news, because it is getting pretty close to Tipton, which is a fairly large population base for eastern Iowa.
Yeah, and the National Weather Service is saying they're not anticipating extending the tornado warning any longer, so this will probably be let go here in the next 6 minutes at 7:45.
All right, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. If we can just show that tornado video one more time, and then we'll let our coverage go and get back to regular programming. But this is the tornado that was on the ground for about 10 minutes earlier today. At this point, it is a multiple vortex tornado, very tight, intense circulation, and right there it is capable of doing some significant damage. And if you look closely, you can actually see debris rotating around the funnel itself. And right in there, it's picking up trees, and fortunately just missed that and is moving on to the northeast. But that farm had a bird's eye view of a very intense tornado, which at that point wouldn't surprise me if that's an EF3, and that's probably going to mean winds close to 150 miles an hour. Very dangerous tornado. And there you can see the multiple vortexes spinning around inside the actual tornado itself. Pretty remarkable sight. And the great news again is that it appears damage was pretty minimal, and this all lifted just before it came into the Iowa City metro area. So that's Tornado 101 there, folks. That is some really remarkable stuff. And since we're not going to extend the warning for now, we'll call it here in the studio. We'll be watching the situation closely. If something changes, of course, we'll be back on the air with the Road Warrior and our full weather staff here. Thanks to Rebecca for helping out. So that's all for now. We'll be back with you later on.
Get weather warn alerts on all your devices. Stay ahead of the storm with Weather First.